Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for this occasion in which we recognize and celebrate our Army's 243 years of service to our nation. We have come a long way from our humble beginnings and now stand as the strongest, most powerful Army in the world. It is because of your blessing on us and our way of life that has made this possible. Lord, our challenges are many as our world continues to evolve into a more complex and unpredictable place. It is because of that and our everlasting commitment to freedom that we ask your blessing on our AUSA convention. We pray that the next few days will continue to make us an Army that is ready today to fight and win our nation's wars by building readiness and preparing us for the future. We pray for our leadership. We ask your blessings on our Commander-in-Chief, our Secretary of Defense, our Secretary of the Army, and our Army leaders as they serve our nation and our Army. Lord, we honor and remember those who have made the ultimate sacrifice and ask your continued blessings on their families and friends who continue to miss them. Yet even today, we still have men and women deployed in harm's way. Give them strength and courage to be victorious, and we ask that they will return soon. We ask all this in your holy name. Amen.
Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Association of the United States Army, General Retired Carter F. Ham.
Good morning. Where's SMA Tilly? Was that okay? No. All right. So Tilly says we got to do it again. Good morning. Good. All right. Very nice. Welcome to the 2018 annual meeting of your association, the Association of the United States Army. Secretary Mrs. Esper, General Mrs. Milley, General Mrs. Langell, SMA and Mrs. Daly, thank you all for taking time to come join us this morning as we at the Association of the United States Army gather again in Washington, D.C. This is the United States Army's largest professional development event of the year and the Army's largest Meet Your Army event of the year. 30,000 of you will be here today. How about a round of applause for each and every one of you? We at the Association of the United States Army never forget why we're here. That is to support America's Army and its soldiers. A special welcome to our international allies and partners. Mr. Secretary, 80 different nations represented here. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please stand and let us thank you for your partnership and for your support to our Army. Thank you all very, very much. Today in the audience, there are many soldiers who have served in harm's way defending America's freedom, and we're honored to have all of these brave women and men with us. A special shout out to our Gold Star families who have witnessed the worst loss that any family can ever experience. If you'd please stand and let us thank you for your sacrifice and for your continued service. I believe he's here. Medal of Honor recipient, Master Sergeant Leroy Petrie. There is a platoon of former Sergeants Major of the Army. Gentlemen, please. And the 32nd Chief of Staff of the United States Army and the former President of your association, General Gordon Sullivan. As we near the centennial of the end of World War I, sadly the war that didn't end all wars, we remember that for over 243 years, American soldiers, regular Army, Army National Guard, and Army Reserve, have fulfilled their oaths in the service of our nation. And since 1950, the Association of the United States Army has been privileged to support those soldiers, their families, Army retirees and veterans, Army civilians, and the industry professionals who enable the world's greatest land force on the planet today to be ready today and more lethal tomorrow. Thank you all for joining us. Let's now watch, listen, and learn from the soldiers of the Military District of Washington.
I cannot say enough about the virtue of our soldiers, their resiliency, and their willingness to take on the tough tasks that lie ahead. Training is the key. Hard, rigorous, realistic, repetitive training. That is the ultimate form of taking care of an American soldier, because the soldier is the most lethal weapon in our Army's vast arsenal.
America was not built on fear. America was built on courage, imagination, and the unbeatable determination to accomplish the mission. We are committed to the evolution of our fighting forces,
establishment of Army Futures Command, cross-functional teams, and next-generation weapons is essential to increasing lethality in every theater of war. Our adversaries need to see we are an army of preparation, trained and ready to fight in response to our nation's call. Success requires an understanding of the past, knowledge of present abilities, and a vision for the future.
We must be ready to dare all for our country, for history does not long entrust the care of freedom to the weak or the timid. Our willingness to embrace innovation remains at the center of what solidifies the U.S. Army as the powerful fighting force it is today and will continue to be tomorrow. We are your American soldiers, and we invite all soldiers to stand and join in reciting our Soldier's Creed. I am an American soldier.
I am a warrior and a member of a team. I serve the people of the United States and live the Army values.
I will always place the mission first.
I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. I will never leave a fallen comrade.
I am disciplined,
Physically and mentally tough,
trained and proficient
in my warrior tasks and drills.
I always maintain my arms, my equipment,
and myself.
I am an expert and I am a professional. I stand ready to deploy, engage, and destroy the enemies of the United States of America in close combat. I am guardian of freedom and the American way of life. I am an American soldier.
Please be seated.
The truly great leader overcomes all difficulties, and campaigns and battles are nothing more than a long series of difficulties to be overcome.
World War I gave us automatic weapons and tanks. World War II offered the M4 Sherman. The mass units of Korea dramatically reduced wounded fatality rates, and the Sky Cavalry of Vietnam revolutionized the use of helicopters in combat. These examples highlight the advantages achieved when innovation is at the forefront of military strategy.
The post-Vietnam advancements, known as the Big Five, were deployed during Operation Desert Storm. Equipped with these powerful weapons systems and trained to the highest standard, we resoundingly defeated the Iraqi army in under 100 hours after initiating our ground assault. This overwhelming show of might was to shape world military affairs for decades to come.
So that 100 hours didn't just happen. That happened because we made a concerted decision to send in overwhelming combat power. And you have to have that combat power to be able to have the flexibility to send it to begin with. And not only did we send just numbers, those numbers were well trained, they were at an extraordinarily high rate of readiness, and it was clear both then and afterwards that that force was technologically superior to anything Saddam could put up. And that's what caused the 100 hours.
Our fighting forces are always evolving to meet the challenges presented by new enemies on multi-domain battlefields. Next-generation weapons, including long-range precision fires, combat vehicles, and future vertical lift, are part of the Army's modernization efforts and focus on the combat of tomorrow.
America's success in military conflict has been achieved through the pairing of new technologies with the professional excellence of the American soldier. Conflict after conflict, innovative tools and well-trained hands have proven critical to victory.
Neither a wise nor a brave man lies down on the tracks of history to wait for the train of the future to run over him.
Our success will not only be defined by new technology, it will also require determined growth through organization and training. It is vital that collaboration remain a central focus in building the Army's approach to the conflicts of tomorrow. The creation of Army Futures Command marks the largest and most significant reorganization of the Army since 1973, when the Army created both TRADOC and ForceCom.
Maintaining the Army's overmatch requires a major shakeup of how we prepare for future combat. To ensure our readiness for the next war, we are bringing the Army's entire modernization enterprise under one roof, Army Futures Command. AFC, as we call it, will provide unity of effort and unity of command to our entire modernization process. It will synchronize the disparate elements and sets of entities to achieve a common purpose. It will develop the Army's future warfighting concepts. It will generate innovative solutions through research and development. And it will fill the next generation of combat systems in accordance with our 6 modernization priorities. AFC will ensure that we get our soldiers the weapons and equipment they need when they need it to fight and win.
Army Futures Command will identify and develop new prototypes and technologies and deliver them to warfighters faster than ever. The 6 modernization priorities include new weapons, new communications technologies, new defense systems, and new soldier protective systems, all designed to drive the Army into the future and maintain a competitive advantage.
The soldier is the Army. No army is better than its soldiers. The soldier is also a citizen. In fact, the highest obligation and privilege of citizenship is that of bearing arms for one's country.
The sacrifices of those that came before us are the defining reason we are positioned to reach further through the modernization concepts of today and tomorrow. By improving equipment and training methods, and enhancing the physical discipline and mental resolve of all soldiers, the United States Army will continue to be the pinnacle of military strength.
It is not all technology, although that played a key role. It is not all readiness, although that played a key role. It's not all about leadership, although that plays a key role. And it's not all about training, although that plays a key role. It's the synergistic effect of all of it in time and space against an enemy that was committed to his cause. And that is true from 1775 to today. Those lessons are not really new. Those lessons are replete throughout not only our own military history, but throughout world military history. And those are lessons we should all take to heart, we should all reflect on, and we should all fight tooth and nail to ensure that we actually use those lessons as we go forward.
We learn from the past as we build to the future to increase soldier lethality and effectiveness. The strongest weapon in the Army's arsenal is its soldiers, who we will continue to defend by enhancing squad mobility and personal protection. The Soldier Protection System integrates new technology into a modular, scalable, lighter kit to increase survivability and lethality.
The greatest gift that is given to us and the intangible measurement of an army is its soldiers. There's no weapon design that can ever replace it. War, in its most simplistic form, is a conflict of wills between people. There are things and there are items that will change and affect the outcome of that war, but until you solve the conflict of wills between those people, ladies and gentlemen, war will persist. This is a people endeavor. It has and always will. And all throughout history has begun on land and will end on land. And so, for the foreseeable future, ladies and gentlemen, the most powerful weapon and our greatest resource is the American soldier.
Soldiers represent the strength of our nation, The values we live by define what it means to be a soldier and remain unchanged. Loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, personal courage. Every soldier on this stage chooses to serve the people of the United States, and we stand together, ready today, more lethal tomorrow. Beyond the boundaries of your city's lights, stand the heroes waiting for your cries. So many times you did not bring this on yourself. When that moment finally comes, I'll be there to help. On that day, when you need your brothers and sisters to care, I'll be right here. Citizen soldier, holding the light for the ones that we got from the dark of despair. Standing on guard for the ones that we shelter, we'll always be ready, because we will always be there. There are people crying in the streets when they're starving for a meal to eat, when they simply need a place to make their bed. Right here underneath my wings, you can rest your head. On that day when you need your brothers and sisters to care, I'll be right here. Citizen soldier, holding the light for the ones that we got from the dark of despair. Standing on guard for the ones that we shelter, we'll always be ready, because we will always be rest assured I will not let you down. I'll walk beside you, though you may not see me. The strongest among you may not wear a crown. On that day when you need your brothers and sisters to care, I'll be right here. On that day when you don't have the strength or the burdens you bear, I'll be right here. Citizen soldier, holding the light for the ones that we got from the dark of despair. Standing on guard for the ones that we shelter, we'll always be ready, because we will always be there. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and join in singing the Army song.
Sing a song with the army of the free. 'Cause the brave, 'cause the true, will have fun to victory. We're the army and proud of our name. We're the army and proudly proclaim. First to fight for the right and to build an
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, the soldiers of the Military District of Washington and the Army Band. Thank you. Troops dismissed. A special thanks to Major General Mike Howard and Command Sergeant Major Woodring of the Military District of Washington, the women and men, the soldiers of the Old Guard, our nation's oldest regular Army regiment, and the women and men of the United States Army Band, Pershing Zone. Thank you very, very much. Well done. If you started from scratch and asked, what experiences should the Secretary of the Army ideally possess? You'd probably start with that he or she should have served, ideally in combat. Maybe they ought to have some experience both on active duty in the National Guard or the Army Reserve. It would be helpful if the Secretary of the Army could understand Congress and the Office of the Secretary of Defense. In a perfect world, the Secretary of the Army should also know the world of policy and think tanks and be experienced in the defense industry. Well, it just so happens that we have such a secretary. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 23rd Secretary of our Army, the Honorable Mark T. Esper.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, that sounded like a Navy response. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, a little bit better, a little bit better. General Ham, thank you for that kind introduction and for all the hard work you and your team have done to put this wonderful conference together. And I would like to personally thank you for your many decades of service to the Army, both in uniform and today as the head of AUSA. Thank you very much. It's great to be here with all of you today, and it's an even greater honor for me to address you at this remarkable time in history for the United States Army. This annual event is incredibly important to the Army. It gives us the opportunity to bring together leaders from across the military, government, private industry, and academia. And it allows us to have a candid professional discussion about what's best for the Army. Since I became the Secretary almost a year ago, I have had the opportunity to visit our soldiers, regular Army, Guard, and Reserve, all around the world. What impresses me most is the dedication and selflessness of our service members, civilians, and their families. Whether visiting soldiers deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan, meeting with our rotational forces in Europe and Korea, observing units training at one of our CTCs, watching annual training at Camp Shelby or Camp Atterbury, or conducting town halls at garrisons around the world, I always walk away inspired by the people that make our Army great. Throughout these travels, I've observed the Army's dedication to taking care of our people and our families, the renewed commitment to the Army values, and our efforts to strengthen relationships with allies and partners. These enduring priorities are what make the Army exceptional and what will ensure continued success in the future. However, today I want to talk about how we will prepare for the future. You see, for quite some time now, we have been making the case that there is an urgent need for change. 17 consecutive years of irregular war, extended periods of budget uncertainty, and an increasingly complex security environment have eroded our competitive edge. Our adversaries, meanwhile, have taken advantage of this to better their positions. In response, we are moving out across a number of fronts to improve readiness, increase lethality, and modernize the force in support of the National Defense Strategy, the Army vision, and the just-released Army strategy that charts our path ahead. These efforts amount to nothing short of an Army renaissance, a renaissance that represents a renewal in how the Army envisions and prepares for future conflict. However, to be successful, it must be comprehensive. There will be no single technology that guarantees success on future battlefields. Our operational concepts must drive our doctrine and warfighting capabilities. And our people need to be led and managed in a way that attracts, develops, and retains the best talent our great nation has to offer. Ladies and gentlemen, the time for change is now. We have the vision, strategy, and leadership in place to ensure the Army remains prepared to deploy, fight, and win our nation's wars today and in the future. Each of you has a role to play in this renaissance. Be under no illusion that this will be easy. Getting there requires hard work. And most importantly, to see the renaissance through to its completion, we'll need to reform the way we do business. In today's environment, we must make difficult choices and prioritize what is most important to modernize the Army. While 2028 may seem like a long time away, achieving our vision requires a sense of urgency. We must act now to ensure that we are ready today and even more lethal tomorrow. Now, thank you. I was going to say my script says you're all supposed to applause right there, so if we need to, I'll do that again. Okay, let's move on then. Thank you. Make no mistake about it, our Army stands ready to defeat any adversary that threatens the United States of America. And I want to thank the Chief of Staff, General Mark Milley, for his leadership and his efforts to rebuild the Army's readiness. No one has done more than General Milley to get us to where we are today. Please join me in a round of applause to recognize him. He's a little shy. He didn't want to stand up. But in addition to being ready for today's threats, we must also prepare for the future. To stay ahead of our enemies, we are investing heavily to enhance our lethality. We have extended initial training for infantry soldiers by 2 months, making it the longest and hardest in the world. We will do the same with armor and engineers, and will look to expand to other branches in the future. Additionally, we have instituted the Army Combat Fitness Test, which will improve the fitness and fighting readiness of our soldiers. The future battlefield will be unrelenting, so our force, regardless of age or gender, must be physically and mentally tough. We're also developing a new generation of weapons and equipment to guarantee overmatch for years to come. Our legacy platforms have served us well for decades, but we're running out of upgrades that will keep us ahead. Technology is changing too fast, and our enemies are too adaptable. That is why we have created 6 modernization priorities to put next-generation equipment into the hands of our soldiers. We expect to have prototypes for the next-generation combat vehicle, squad automatic weapon, mobile short-range air defense system, and a strategic long-range cannon in the next few years. Army's Future Command is promptly moving out to unify and focus our modernization enterprise. It will ensure that we stay true to our established priorities. I'd like our new commander of Army Futures Command, General Mike Murray, to stand. This time last year, AFC was just an idea, and today the headquarters is up and running in Austin, Texas. What an incredible accomplishment. Please join me in a round of applause for General Murray, as well as General McConville, Under Secretary McCarthy, and all of those who helped to make Army Futures Command a reality. Thank you all. As part of this renaissance, we are also modernizing our doctrine. The importance of the space and cyber domains has rendered the air-land battle doctrine inadequate, if not obsolete. The military domains have become too interconnected to fight each in isolation. Even coordinated action is insufficient. Soon, we will release the next evolution of multi-domain operations doctrine, which describes how the Army fights in all domains as part of the joint force. Doctrine is a critical component of the Renaissance, and we need to rapidly educate the force in this new way of fighting. We need to learn and know it inside and out. To this day, I can still remember the tenets of air-land battle doctrine, agility, initiative, depth, and synchronization that were drilled into me as a young officer in the 1980s. To be successful, multi-domain operations must be institutionalized across the Army in the same way, beginning with the schoolhouses and training centers. Preparing for this type of fight also demands we strengthen units with added capabilities. Corps will be supplemented with electronic warfare companies. Divisions will receive greater long-range fires and air defense assets. And brigades will take control of cyber and electronic warfare teams. Organizing for multi-domain operations will increase the complexity of our formations and demand more of our leaders, but will pay big dividends when employed correctly. This renaissance has us well on the path to building a more lethal Army. We have had tremendous support from Congress. The FY17 and 18 bills gave us the money and authorities we needed to stop the bleeding and start rebuilding readiness. And the FY19 bills were even better. I want to take a moment to thank Congress for their bipartisan support in passing these important pieces of legislation. Thank you. Your actions will ensure that the Army can make much-needed investments in readiness and in modernization. But enabling our priorities in the long run requires the Army to change the way we do business. To sustain the Renaissance, we must reform. Now, reform is not an end unto itself, but rather the means by which we take control of our own destiny. Reform allows us to optimize the use of our time, money, and manpower. Effective reforms generate efficiencies and ensure we are putting the right resources into the right activities. One such reform is giving back time to our junior leaders. You see, over the years, the cumulative weight of mandatory reporting and training tasks has hurt our ability to build ready, lethal units, let alone forge trust and confidence in subordinate leaders. As part of an ongoing process, we will continue to eliminate and reduce these mandatory requirements. We are also looking to reform the Army personnel system. One of the most important and urgent steps in this reform is to rethink our recruiting strategy. It's no secret that we did not meet our accessions goals this year. However, let me say this: we will not sacrifice quality for quantity. Indeed, we raised our standards this year. However, the recruiting environment has changed, so we must change with it. Our traditional accessions model that relies almost exclusively on Army recruiters to bring in the next generation of soldiers is no longer sufficient. Please raise your hand if you're an Army recruiter. Thanks for your hard work. Let's give them a round of applause. Recruiting has become increasingly difficult in today's environment. While only 29% of America's youth meet our entry requirements, only 4% of that pool have a propensity to serve. And in many ways, our military has grown isolated from parts of society, as service is becoming more and more of a family business and clustered in certain parts of the country. The Army is a people organization, so if we are to thrive in the years ahead, we must reframe the way we think about recruiting. We must adopt the mindset that everyone is a recruiter. So now I'm going to ask you all again, please raise your hand if you're an Army recruiter. There we go. Every hand should go up. As I said, we are all recruiters: officers, enlisted, generals, privates, active, retired, Guard, Reserve, you name it, even spouses and moms. We need your help moving forward. Now, meeting our manpower needs with quality personnel requires a new strategy that will broaden our reach across America. Our new campaign will focus on major cities around the country with a much greater presence in social media while continuing our efforts in traditional locales. It will be holistic, looking to reform and enhance every part of the accessions process, and will be provided the resources and support needed to get the job done. Americans need to know their Army, but it's on us to get out and meet them. Personnel reform also demands an HR system that leverages the knowledge, skills, behaviors, and preferences of our people. I'm sure that almost everyone in this room knows someone who was uniquely qualified for a job, but was prevented or discouraged from filling it because of the constraints inherent to our current career model. I've heard about these frustrations during my travels. A sergeant who was unable to stay in her recruiting job because her time was up. A captain who was steered away from graduate school because it would jeopardize his timeline. A colonel who had to retire because he was forced to change duty stations for a third consecutive year. We need to fix this. Our Talent Management Task Force is developing a strategy consistent with the new authorities contained in the 2019 NDAA to better enable us to attract, develop, and retain the best officers, NCOs, and soldiers available. Ultimately, we need a system that allows for multiple paths to success, one which spreads talent, allows it to flourish across the enterprise, and develops it over time, one which optimizes an individual's qualifications and preferences to meet the Army's requirements, one which is more tuned to the desires of families and the op-tempo of today's Army, and one which relies far less on adherence to set timelines, centralized management, and cookie-cutter career paths. This is the talent management-based personnel system we intend to construct next year. We're also taking a hard look at how we invest our budget dollars. The Chief and I will continue to take a fine-tooth comb to our budgets, every single one, to ensure we remain aligned with the National Defense Strategy and the Army vision. The changes we are making are tough, and nearly every program we've canceled, reduced, or consolidated had value, no doubt. However, priorities are priorities, and hard choices must be made. I can't tell you how many times someone has said to me, "Don't eliminate that program, it's only $10 million," or don't cut that office. It's only 15 people. You know what, though? By going after the nickels and dimes, we've freed up over $25 billion in countless personnel billets that we will put back into building readiness and modernizing the Army. Now let's talk about your role in this renaissance. Our renaissance will be only successful if all contribute. Everyone in this room has a partnership with the Army in some way. So it's important that we work together to achieve our goals. To the American people, know that your Army is prepared to deploy, fight, and win today against any adversary anywhere in the world in defense of this great nation. You provide us our most precious resource, America's sons and daughters. Continue to trust in our ability to serve and protect you. Now, if you work on the Hill, please raise your hand. Because what I'd like to say to Congress is this: have confidence that we'll make the most of every dollar you provide us. Support us when the hard decisions are made. And please, please bring sufficiency, predictability, and timeliness to our budgets so we can fully realize our vision. We need another budget agreement next year that puts national security above the Budget Control Act. If you work in industry, please raise your hand. What I'd like to say to the private sector is this: our 6 priorities are clear, and they will not change. Invest in us. We are moving away from lengthy requirements documents and long processes. We want you to help bring us the ideas and innovative solutions that will modernize the Army. Now, if you're a veteran, please raise your hand. To all of you, our soldiers for life, you have served so well and sacrificed so much for this great nation. Through your example, you inspire others to serve. Help us tell the Army story and encourage America's youth to join our ranks. And finally, to the United States Army, our soldiers and civilian professionals in the total Army, we need to embrace change and lead it. We must be meticulous in how we spend our time, money, and manpower, and be willing to make hard choices. Our future, America's future, depends on it. Moving forward, we must ask ourselves, in all that we do, does this contribute to the Army's readiness and lethality? If the answer is no, then go to your chain of command and stop doing it. Second, is there a simpler, better, or less expensive way to do this? If the answer is yes, then console the doubters, ignore the skeptics, and make the change. And finally, is this the right thing to do? If the answer is yes, then, well, we all know what needs to happen. You see, as the department reallocates resources to support our modernization, I assure you that we will do this deliberately. Readiness and modernization will be our guideposts. And while we are committed to doing this right and doing it fairly, we need your help. All too often, the not my program attitudes, this function is too critical rationales, and we can't do it excuses begin to appear. Reform is seen as important, but it's something for others to do. We need everyone to overcome any and every hesitation to change, because the need to reform is too great and its benefits are too important. Ultimately, the success of our Renaissance, the success of our Army, depends on it. Now, history is replete with examples of armies that failed to adapt. The U.S. Army is not immune from this either. One of the oft-cited examples was the cavalry's reluctance to part ways with their horses. Even after it became apparent that horses would be no match for the maneuver and firepower of mechanized vehicles, the cavalry branch still resisted change. In another example, the U.S. Army turned down multiple offers from the Wright brothers to purchase the airplane. failing to see its potential military application. Ultimately, it took pressure from President Teddy Roosevelt to convince the War Department to seriously consider the Wright brothers' invention. But even after the Army acquiesced, it could only envision its use for signal and observation purposes. While European nations were developing a combat role for aviation, the U.S. Army was stuck viewing the airplane through the lens of a Civil War-era hot air balloon. Our current transformation will have its own group of critics. Whether it's holding on to the old way of doing things or failing to envision different applications for new things, there will be naysayers who will oppose change. They will tell us autonomous vehicles will never work on the battlefield, that the new combat fitness test will push too many people out of the Army, that higher accession standards will scare away recruits, and that Army Futures Command won't deliver. They will say the Army personnel system works great. There's no need to change. After all, it promoted me. They'll claim that reform has been tried before and it will never work in a bureaucracy as large as the Army. And some will even make the case that everything is just fine, keep moving, no reason for change. But just like the cavalry diehards and the airplane skeptics, in the end, history will prove them wrong. Which side of history do you want to be on? Join with us, with me and General Milley, with the Under and the Vice, with the Sergeant Major of the Army, as we continue our march forward, ever conscious of how we must adapt to the world in front of us. We are blessed that this Army has become the greatest the world has ever known. However, we are under no illusion that this is a preordained outcome. Achieving the Army vision that we have set forth will require hard work and a discipline focused on our priorities. It will require a renewal, a renaissance in how we envision, plan, and prepare for future conflict. 10 short years from now, in 2028, we will look back on this time as a pivotal moment for our Army. We will remember it as a period when the Army united behind a common set of goals with a shared purpose and a clear path. We will reflect on it as a moment when an opportunity was seized, when the hard decisions were made, and when the Army shaped the future rather than cling to the past. I'm asking all of you to seize this opportunity with us, to embrace reform, to take the initiative, and to commit to the renaissance that will achieve our vision. Although we cannot control how the world will change moving forward, we can and will prepare the Army to contend with the future we encounter. We must gain control of our destiny as best we can. We must seize it and shape it and own it. In doing so, we will remain ready to deploy, fight, and win our nation's wars anytime, anywhere, against anyone. America expects nothing less from us, and neither should you. Thank you, and may God bless America and the United States Army.
Well, thanks very much, Mr. Secretary. I would tell you, for those of us at the Association of the United States Army, we know what side of history we want to be on. We want to be on the side that is the United States Army. We're with you. All 30,000 who are going to be here at this annual meeting and all 132,000 of our members, we're with you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you. The Secretary outlined a pretty eventful year over the past year as we look back a little time, and we're going to take a moment to recognize some folks who have have done extraordinary things for the Army, for our nation, and for our association.
To assist in presentation of AUSA's national awards, Lieutenant General Patricia McQuistion, United States Army retired, chair of the annual meeting, will join General Ham on the stage. Would Tom Ridge please join us on the stage? The General Creighton W. Abrams Medal is presented to the Honorable Thomas J. Ridge for his exceptional service to the United States Army. A former soldier, congressman, governor, and first U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security, Thomas J. Ridge has been in service to his country and the United States Army since 1968. Deployed to Vietnam with the 23rd Infantry Division, AmeriCal, as a staff sergeant, Governor Ridge received many awards, including the Bronze Star for Valor and the Combat Infantryman Badge for his service there. He was the first enlisted Vietnam combat veteran elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, was re-elected 5 times, and served on the Veterans Affairs Committee, championing the needs of fellow veterans. Governor Ridge was the 43rd governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. After the September 11th terrorist attacks, President George W. Bush appointed him to serve as his assistant on Homeland Security, and later as the first Secretary of Homeland Security. He has continued to serve veterans and the Army as chairman of the Vietnam War Commemoration Advisory Committee. As chairman of the National Organization on Disability, he has championed employment opportunities for veterans with disabilities throughout the Wounded Warrior Careers Program. In grateful recognition of his exceptional, steadfast, and visionary service, we proudly present the Abrams Medal to the Honorable Thomas J. Ridge. Would Antonia Schumann please join us on the stage? The Major General Anthony J. Drexel Biddle Medal is presented to Antonia Schumann for her outstanding contributions to the Association of the United States Army. The anchor of the Greater Los Angeles chapter of the Association of the United States Army for more than 40 years, Tony Schumann is the chapter leader who never served as a chapter president, but someone who no president there could ever have served without. For 25 years, Ms. Schumann was chapter secretary, advisor, and counsel, often the first person to speak to incoming chapter presidents. The dedication, passion, and countless hours she toiled on behalf of AUSA and the chapter was very evident in her work. Her attention to meticulous detail has helped make the Greater Los Angeles chapter one of the most successful AUSA chapters. In recognition of her steadfast and dedicated contributions to our mission, we proudly present the Biddle Medal to Tony Schumann. Would General Wright please join us on stage? The Lieutenant General Raymond S. McLean Medal is presented to Major General Jessica L. Wright, United States Army retired, for her outstanding contributions to the advancement of the Association of the United States Army's goal of a seamless, multi-component Army. A capable, caring, and selfless leader, Major General Jessica Wright spent 35 years in uniform as a trailblazing soldier, and after retiring from military service in 2010, continued to support the Army and Reserve components by serving as Assistant Deputy Defense Secretary for Reserve Affairs and as Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness. She was the Army National Guard's first female aviator and first female Maneuver Brigade Commander of the 28th Combat Aviation Brigade, 28th Infantry Division, Fort Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania. In 2004, she became the 50th and first female Adjutant General of Pennsylvania. As Assistant Secretary of Defense for Reserve Affairs, and later as Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness, she was among the Pentagon leaders who raised concerns about eroding military readiness. She was especially concerned about maintaining a balanced Army force structure among the regular Army, Army National Guard, and Army Reserve. It is with sincere gratitude and the highest regard for her unparalleled service to our nation that we proudly present the McLean Medal to Major General Jessica L. Wright, U.S. Army, retired. Would Command Sergeant Major Joseph Sweeney please join us on the stage? The Major General James Earl Rudder Medal is presented to Command Sergeant Major Joseph R. Sweeney, United States Army, retired, for his outstanding contributions to the advancement of the Association of the United States Army's goal of a seamless, multi-component Army. With 35 years in the United States Army, 47 years of volunteering with the Association of the United States Army, and current service as a civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army and Director of California's Program for Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve, Command Sergeant Major Joseph R. Sweeney, U.S. Army, retired, has amassed a lifetime of accomplishments. In an Army career that began in 1968, he served more than 19 years as a Command Sergeant Major in regular Army and Army Reserve units. He joined AUSA in 1971. He has served more than 14 years as a chapter president in 4 different chapters, and another 4 years as a region president, and further as a member of 4 AUSA advisory boards. In each position, he championed soldiers and families, helping many people understand the critical role each component provides for the defense of our nation. As civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army for the Northern California community, he advises Army senior leaders about public sentiments toward the Army and works closely with Army commanders throughout the state. In appreciation of his outstanding service, we proudly present the Rudder Medal to Command Sergeant Major Joseph R. Sweeney, United States Army, retired. Will Command Sergeant Major Van Pelt please join us on stage? The Sergeant Major of the Army William G. Bainbridge Medal is presented to Command Sergeant Major Robert W. Van Pelt, United States Army, retired, for his exceptional service to the Non-Commissioned Officer Corps. Command Sergeant Major Robert Van Pelt served 42 years of combined service in the regular Army, Army National Guard, and U.S. Army Reserve in a variety of leadership roles. His post-retirement work has helped soldiers make the often difficult transition from uniformed service to civilian employment. He established the Employment Initiatives Program for the New York National Guard and the New York National Guard Job Zone website that has had nearly 600,000 users since its inception. Through his efforts, the National Guard organized job fairs at facilities across New York State, helping more than 4,200 service members, veterans, and their spouses connect with more than 1,500 military-friendly employers. In grateful recognition of his dedication and countless contributions to America's Army, we proudly present the Bainbridge Medal to Command Sergeant Major Robert W. Van Pelt, U.S. Army, retired. Would Command Sergeant Major Sablon please join us on stage? The Joseph P. Cribbins Medal is presented to Command Sergeant Major Jesse T. Sablon, United States Army, retired, for his exemplary service to the U.S. Army and his significant contributions to the U.S. Army and its communities. Command Sergeant Major Jesse Sablon, U.S. Army, retired, has been invaluable in aiding soldiers with pay and financial management issues. As a senior financial management analyst for the U.S. Army Financial Management Agency, he clarified roles and responsibilities between the Army and the Department of Defense, and he's trained his staff to make it work. As the Army's principal Wounded Warrior Pay Advisor and active participant in all Warrior Transition Command programs, he assessed warrior transition units and established resources, operations, training, and support programs for transitioning soldiers. It is with profound gratitude and appreciation that we proudly present the Cribbins Award to Command Sergeant Major Jesse Sablon, U.S. Army, retired, a distinguished Army civilian. Would Staff Sergeant Vincent Pastor and family please join us on stage? The AUSA Volunteer Family of the Year Award for outstanding efforts to promote the well-being of soldiers and families is presented to Staff Sergeant Vincent Pastor and family. The Pastor family embodies the spirit of volunteerism through wide-ranging activities that promote the well-being of soldiers and their families. Staff Sergeant Pastor, his wife Tanya, and their 3 daughters, Angelina, Isabella, and Sabrina, have each provided exceptional service to the Army, its soldiers, and Army families with impressive contributions in their Mount Laurel, New Jersey community. Vincent's volunteer activities include working with Backpacks for Life, a program that helps soldiers who are transitioning from military to civilian employment. Tanya, Angelina, Isabella, and Sabrina have contributed a combined 2,000+ hours volunteering over a 2-year period. Through consistent volunteer work and a dedication to service, the Pastors have shown their willingness to go above and beyond to help others. It is with sincere gratitude and appreciation that we proudly present the Volunteer Family of the Year Award to this remarkable Army family. Accepting the award for Walmart Incorporated, Rachel Brand, Executive Vice President of Global Governance, Chief Legal Officer and Corporate Secretary, and Brigadier General Gary Proffitt, U.S. Army retired, Senior Director, Military Programs. Please join us on stage. The Association of the United States Army's National Service Award is presented to Walmart Incorporated for exemplary service and demonstrated enduring support to the American soldier and the United States Army community. Walmart has shown outstanding commitment to soldiers, the nation's veterans, and their families, not just with words of support, but also through company policies and significant financial contributions. In 2013, Walmart announced the Veterans Welcome Home Commitment with an initial goal to hire 100,000 veterans by 2018. That commitment has expanded to 250,000 by 2020. Walmart has added more than 206,000 veterans to its U.S. workforce and promoted more than 30,000 to higher-level roles with greater responsibility within Walmart. A founding member of the Coalition for Veteran-Owned Business, Walmart is committed to helping veteran-owned businesses, entrepreneurs, and suppliers in communities throughout the U.S. Walmart's Military Family Promise supports regular Army, Guard and Reserve, and spouses. The company's military leave of absence policy offers differential pay to associates taking a leave of absence for specific military assignments. Walmart and the Walmart Foundation have, since 2011, granted more than $40 million to organizations that strengthen systems and communities to help the U.S. military, veterans, and their families navigate the wide array of resources available to them at all stages of their service journey. It is with profound gratitude and appreciation that we proudly present the National Service Award to Walmart Incorporated for its dedicated service to men and women in uniform and their families. And now it gives us a great deal of pleasure to present the AUSA Chapter Awards. Ladies and gentlemen, the AUSA Award for the largest membership for the 2017-2018 operating year goes to the Central Texas Fort Hood Chapter. Accepting the award for the Central Texas Fort Hood Chapter, Colonel Larry Phelps, U.S. Army retired, Chapter President. Lieutenant General Paul Funk, Commanding General, 3 Corps, and Command Sergeant Major Michael Crosby, Command Sergeant Major, 3 Corps. We would now like to recognize our Army's divisions for their outstanding membership accomplishments this past year. This year, the Active Duty Division Award for the largest active duty membership goes to the 1st Cavalry Division, Fort Hood, Texas. Accepting the award is Major General Paul Calvert, Commanding General, 1st Cavalry Division, and Colonel Larry Phelps, U.S. Army retired, Chapter President. We have 2 awards to honor reserve components that, through their participation and membership, have been outstanding in support of the Association's mission of keeping America's Army strong. The award for the National Guard Division, with the most AUSA members, goes to the 29th Infantry, Blue and Gray Division, Virginia and Maryland. Accepting the award is Major General John Epperly, Commanding General, 29th Infantry Division, and Command Sergeant Major Ronald Smith. The award to the Major U.S. Army Reserve Command with the greatest support to AUSA, as measured by membership and active support to and from the chapters within the command's footprint, goes to the 80th Training Command, Richmond, Virginia. Accepting the award is Brigadier General Aaron Walter, Commanding General, 100th Training Division, Fort Knox, Kentucky, and Sergeant Major William E. Pendleton, Jr., Sergeant Major, Readiness Trainer Academy, 83rd U.S. Army Reserve Readiness Training Center, Fort Knox, Kentucky. And now, presentation of the Best Chapter Awards. These awards recognize those chapters whose outstanding service to their members, their communities, and the Army earned them the distinction of Best in their class this past year. Their successes represent a team effort by the chapter and their local military and business leaders. We categorize our Best Chapter competition based upon their size. Individuals accepting the award will do so on stage. The Council of Trustees Award that recognizes the best chapters overall from all categories go to the following chapters. For first place in the largest category, chapters which began the year with over 1,000 individual, life, and community partner members. The winner is the George Washington chapter. Accepting for the George Washington chapter, Colonel Retired Glenn Yarbrough, chapter president, accompanied by Major General Michael Howard, Commanding General, Joint Force Headquarters, National Capital Region, Military District of Washington, and Joint Force Headquarters Command Sergeant Major Richard Woodring. In the category of chapters with between 600 and 999 members, the winner is the Monmouth chapter. Accepting for the Monmouth chapter are Colonel Retired Sam Fuoco, chapter president, accompanied by Brigadier General Jamal J. Beal, the Adjutant General, State of New Jersey, and Glenn Parada, Treasurer, Monmouth Chapter. In our category of chapters with between 350 and 599 members, the winner is the Columbia River Chapter. Accepting for the Columbia River Chapter are Sergeant Major Retired Jerry Glessman, Chapter President, accompanied by Brigadier General William Pendergrast, Land Component Commander, Oregon National Guard, and Command Sergeant Major Robert Foish, Command Senior Enlisted Leader, Oregon National Guard. In the category of chapters starting the year with between 200 and 349 individual, life, and community partners, the winner is the Colonel Edward Cross chapter. Accepting the award is Lieutenant Colonel Retired Gregory Darbon, chapter president. Lieutenant Colonel Retired Andrew Coro, Chapter Vice President for ROTC and JROTC, and Mr. Christopher Agir, Immediate Past President. In our category for chapters with less than 200 members, the winners are the Charleston chapter and the National Training Center High Desert Chapter. Accepting for the Charleston chapter is Colonel Retired Joe Trez, Chapter President, and Lieutenant General Retired Roger Thompson, Chairman, Charleston Chapter Board of Directors. Accepting for the National Training Center High Desert Chapter, Renita Wicks Deason, Chapter President. Command Sergeant Major Matthew Lowe, Command Sergeant Major, National Training Center and Fort Irwin. And Lori Picard, Vice President, Family Programs. In the Best Overseas Chapter category, the winner is the General Creighton Abrams Chapter. Accepting for the General Abrams Chapter is Dave Fulton, Chapter President. Lieutenant General Christopher Cavoli, Commanding General, U.S. Army Europe. Command Sergeant Major Robert Aperthathy, Command Sergeant Major, U.S. Army Europe. Ms. Gemma McGowan, VP Young Professionals. Would representatives from the following chapters who were selected as runners-up for Best Chapter Awards please stand and be recognized? North Texas, Audie Murphy. Indiana, Major General Harry Green, Aberdeen, Rock Island Arsenal. Robert E. Lee. Master Sergeant Leroy A. Petrie. This concludes the award presentations. Let's give everyone a hand.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Great, an incredible array of award recipients. Thank you all for all that you have done to make a difference for the United States Army. Congratulations, all. Hey, some of you may have recognized there was a small race yesterday. All right, runners from around the world competed in the 34th Annual Army 10-miler hosted by the United States Army's Military District of Washington. We know that each year the Army's race has grown in numbers of runners and in teams. It truly has become a tradition of excellence. And this association, your association, the race's founding sponsor, was again very, very proud, along with KBR Weil, also an AUSA national partner, to sponsor this year's run. This year, over 35,000 registered runners, over 600 teams competing, runners from all 50 states, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and athletes from several foreign countries. For those of you who were not able to run or attend the race, we have a special video to highlight the Army's annual premier athletic event, the 34th Army Annual 10-Miler.
And remember that we've got 180,000 soldiers today in 140 countries on freedom's frontier, defending the freedom of this great country of ours, all 300 million Americans. And they're out there, and all of you have been out there too. And today you're not only running for yourselves, but you're running for them.
Warrior athletes, set.
Good morning, Washington, D.C. Good morning, United States Army. Be safe, make your PRs, and have fun. Huh? All right, runners, set.
How about that? A special thanks to Ms. Nzinga Curry and Mr. Pete Murphy, the video's executive producers, and the great team. If you want a copy of that DVD, head down this afternoon to the AUSA Pavilion in Exhibit Hall A after 1 o'clock. If I could ask for the outstanding soldier athletes, as I call your name, please stand to be recognized. The winner of the Army 10-miler in the male category with the overall fastest time, 50 minutes and 23 seconds. I can't drive it that fast. All right. Army Specialist Franklin Tonui. The winner in the women's category for the second consecutive year, 56 minutes, 33 seconds, Army Specialist Susan Tanui. This will not surprise you, Sergeant Major of the Army Daily. They are both members of the All-Army team. The top U.S. military men's team and winner of the Commander's Cup, the Mountain Post, Fort Carson, Colorado. The top U.S. military women's team and the winner of the Commander's Cup, the Fort Bragg women's team. This next one's a little suspicious. The winning team in the Sergeant's Major category, the Office of the Sergeant Major of the Army. And the winner of the International Trophy this year, the All-United States Army team. Congratulations to all runners, to all participants, and again, what an extraordinary job by the Military District of Washington. One more round of applause, please. All right, here we go. We got a busy and exciting annual meeting. 30,000 people, more than 30,000 are expected this year. If you haven't already downloaded the AUSA app, shame on you. Download it. It's available at the App Store or on Google Play. The app gives you access to the constantly updated agenda, maps of the exhibit halls, searchable lists of exhibitors and sponsors, and biographies of our speakers. The Battle Challenge, which the Sergeant Major of the Army kicked off this morning, is a timed obstacle course, 9 stations. You can run it individually or as a team. We don't care what your attire is. Go down to the back corner of Hall C and see that exciting event. Tuesday evening, you may have heard already that Gary Sinise and the Lieutenant Dan Band will be forming a free, operative word, free, concert on Tuesday night right here, 7:30 to 9:30. If you have a badge registered for this annual meeting, you can attend, and we hope that you will. The Army exhibit, the Keystone exhibit, the Army's exhibit is in Hall D and is the showcase of the Army's ideas for current and future force, leader development, and the Army profession. Please spend some time at the Army's exhibit, again in Hall D. For all, thanks for your support. Thanks for all that you do to make America's Army strong each and every day. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day and a great annual meeting. This concludes our opening ceremony.